Welcome back, everybody, to Brain Smasher's Metal Mansplainer of Mediocre Metalopolopsy Hell Time. Thanks for joining me. We're going to talk about some records and whatever else comes about. Today we're going to be listening to a band that I told you to listen to a couple of videos ago. The Moon Lay Hidden Beneath a Cloud. This is their album Amara Tantra Tiri. This came out in 1995. So we're going to be listening to some crazy evil witch music. I got a couple of things in this week to talk about. This is Ore Noir's Hades Rise. So a couple of videos ago I was talking about how this is one of my favorite bands, but then I kind of started to realize that I don't have, and I don't really listen to any of their stuff after Deep Tracts of Hell, which came out like 15 years ago. And they've put out 3 records since then, and I think I've heard them here and there a little bit. But I thought, you know what, why don't I just do some due diligence here and pick them up as long as I can find them for cheap and really give them a solid listen to. So this is Hades Rise. This one came out in 2008, so I'm actually not going in chronological order from after Deep Tracts of Hell. But anyways, I just picked this up for a couple of bucks. And, you know, I'm actually not that crazy about it. I realized that I missed one of the things I like about Ore Noir, which is Carl Michael's drumming. And he doesn't play drums on this. And, I don't know, just something about the songwriting. It's a lot more experimental. It's not really all that traditional thrash. It's just a really weird, thrashy black metal record, I guess. It's not all that out of the ordinary as far as the genre goes, but if you really break it down and listen to the riffs, they're just really strange, and I'm not sure how I feel they work in this style of guitar work works in the thrash, black thrash kind of genre. So I'm going to keep on listening to it and just kind of see where it goes, but right now I'm just kind of like, I don't know, not really feeling it. But on the contrary, I got in these 2 records yesterday thanks to Marty Worm, who also has a great channel doing exactly what I'm doing. I'll send you a link down there. Anyways, I traded him a couple of Iron Maiden posters for these amazing CDs. This I've been wanting to get for a really long time. When it first came out, I was trying to remember why I never got around to picking this up the first time it was this came out. Anyway, this is False Raras, The Light That Dwells in Rotten Wood. This is their second full length, I want to say. And I was trying to think. I think they were around the time this first came out. I was out of work and really broke, and I never really got around to buying it on CD. And it just seems like all the 1,000 copies that were printed of it on Pine Rune were just snatched up, and everybody who bought them wants to have them. So happy to have a second chance to have this on CD. I do have it on LP on the Replenish Records version, but this is the new Digipack version of it. It's got some sweet photography by Becca Lund. Amazing record. And the drummer on this is Austin, who plays on this. Now this is Panopticon's Revisions of the Past. It's a double CD set with all new artwork. And so what happened was they took the original recordings from Social Disservices and On the Subject of Mortality and totally reworked all the recordings, the drums, the vocals, the guitars, the bass, synth, and remastered it as well. And honestly, they both sound like completely new records. It's so great to finally hear these things with the clarity that I really always wanted the first time around. I'll be honest, I kind of had a hard time listening to On the Subject of Mortality. In the beginning, some of the guitar tones just kind of didn't gel right with the recording. Social Disservices I have always kind of liked quite a bit. But it's so cool to hear these have just kind of like a revamped vision to them. Amazing artwork by Nate Burns on here. You got to pick this up. If you're a fan of Panopticon, you will not be disappointed. This is great, great, great stuff. So yeah, that's what I've got in this week. So we're going to keep on going through alphabetically. Where we left off, I think last video was Beharit. So this is Bestial Raids. This is a split with Blasphemophager. Not sure how to pronounce it exactly, but I think they're both Italian war metal bands, and I've maybe listened to this once or twice. A buddy of mine gave it to me. As you can see, it's kind of the goat metal, gas mask kind of stuff, and I've really lost interest in that kind of stuff over the last few years. I do remember liking one of Blasphemophager's full lengths quite a bit, the one that came out on Nuclear War Now. Maybe there's two of them by now, who knows. But they were a decent band. Next, I picked this up at Cheapo a couple of years ago, thinking it was a pretty solid buy, but I wound up taking it home and not really thinking much of it. This is a split between Heretic, which is basically like a Beharit worship band, and Bestial Summoning, who they had a full length back in like 91 that came out on Osmos that I did really like. I can't think of what it's called right now. So I figured, this is probably a sure bet. It just didn't really do much for me. It's called Splitting Skulls for Satan. So, yeah, this came out on Black Vomit Records out of Greece. Who knows? Probably 10 years ago or so. It's alright. Moving on. I'm not sure if these are chronological. This is a band that a lot of people tend to dig. This is Bethlehem. So I have Dictius Tenekar. This is the Redstream Records version of it. And I believe this is my favorite of theirs. It's just a band that I think a lot of people do talk about, but I don't really get around to listening to all that often. This is another full-length Reflection auf Stirben, also the Redstream version. And here actually is kind of a rare version, the Adopokir version of Dark Metal. This is also a good record too. Pretty good band. They really got bad around 2002 or so, I want to say. They've put out some really crap records from what I've heard. But these three are all pretty solid albums. It's kind of like somewhere between suicidal doom black metal kind of stuff. It's just kind of an interesting hybrid of stuff. I think they started out as more of a black metal band and moved kind of slower down to like a doomy kind of thing, but interesting band that I don't listen to often enough. Now here's a band, this is some dusty ass metal here. This is a band called Beth-Zeta, and I remember hearing a lot about these guys back in the late 90s in advertisements and stuff, but I always wanted to check them out. And I wound up getting their, what's it called? It's like a shaped CD that Seasons of Mist came out. It's shaped like a Thor's hammer. I've since got rid of it for some reason, or maybe it got stolen or something, but I found these two used at Cheapo a year or two ago, picked them up, and really fell in love with them. This first album is called Nine Worlds, and it's more of a death metal sort of direction. But both of these records show a lot of experimentation. They use some kind of atonal, dissonant sort of riffing, which is really unique. Their singer also plays flute, so they just kind of mix it up with a lot of different strange elements. And I can't recommend this band enough if you're interested in something that's death metal, but kind of steps away from the brutality or the gore or the violence and just really tries to get something experimental and progressive about it. Really good band, Beth-Zeta. Check them out. The second album I didn't mention. This one is a little bit weirder than the Nine Worlds. It's called LXXVIII, whatever that is in Roman numerals. I'm not sure, but there's a cover by Gustave Doré. I'm sure that's officially licensed and everything. But both of them came out on Season of Mist, and they're pretty easy to pick up from what I can tell. Next, we've got one of my absolute favorite bands. I feel like I say that every video, and I feel glad that I get to show you guys some of the bands I'm enthusiastic about, but really this is one of my absolute favorite bands. So here we go. We're going to start from the beginning. Actually, I don't have any of their demo tapes. They're rare as hell. But this is Beyond Dawn, and this is an EP called Longing for Scarlet Days. This came out on Adopokir in 90, I don't know, I guess I'd say probably 93. This is just a little, 94. This is just a little 4-song EP, and it's kind of like a traditional doom, but there seems like a lot of Swan's influence. If you've ever heard Swan's Burning World or something album, I want to say. I'm not a huge Swans fan, but I do remember liking that one album, and I just thought this sounds exactly like a Beyond Dawn EP. But so this is where it all started. Just doom with kind of a strange hint or angle, which kind of foreshadows what they would become after this. And it's just an interesting little 4-song EP. And this is where it really gets good. This is Pity Love, their first full length, I want to say. And this is where they got picked up by Candlelight. And this is like a lot more of a romantic sort of, I guess maybe My Dying Bride would be the closest comparison that I could make to this album. There's a lot more interesting instrumentation, and they show a lot more maturity in this full length. And I can't believe more people don't talk about this as one of like the classics of doom. It's not like a stonery doom or a traditional doom kind of thing. But like I said, along the lines of My Dying Bride or Anathema, this kind of stuff, this totally belongs among the ranks of those great bands. And then they got really weird. This came out in, I don't know, 98 probably. And this was on Misanthropy, and I have both the Digipack version and the promo version of this album, and it's called Revelry. And it's way more forward thinking than the previous stuff. There's a lot more weird instrumentation and experimentation going on. Kind of cool booklet. I really dig this record. It's a total avant-garde kind of thing. You could maybe even say there's a little bit of goth influence in here, but it really steps away from traditional metal, so if that scares you, you might not like it. But if you are looking for something pretty weird, I really recommend, in fact, if you wanted to check out this band, starting with this one, Revelry. After that, they did a acoustic album. This is called In Reverie. Now, I think this is just a collection of songs that were on other albums done acoustically, but it definitely just feels like an acoustic album, and it's really good. It's kind of nice and slow-paced, sort of introspective and personal. I really dig this album, but it's kind of weird for me to think of it as a Beyond Dawn album because it doesn't really sound much like any of their other stuff. And I would say they don't do a lot of acoustic things in their other albums. So then after that, Revelry, in 99, this came out on Peaceville. This is called Electric Sulking Machines. Now this one pretty much, half of the time it sounds like it could be maybe just any other indie rock band, a good indie rock band. There's just something about this though. The songwriting is so good and so well done. It's pretty indicative of some of the experimental stuff that was going on around the turn of the century back then, and I really dig this album. There's not a lot of heaviness or metal moments to it, but solid songwriting, a lot of great avant-garde sort of experimentation going on. So to even further distance themselves from their doom metal beginnings, this album is called Frisch, and this album sounds to me quite a bit like the last one before it, Electric Sulking Machines, but they get electronic in this album. And it works to great effect, in my opinion. It's, as long as you aren't expecting any metal out of them, really. It's been a while since I listened to this. Actually, I kind of burned myself out on it a couple of years ago. I was listening to this constantly. But yeah, I really like the effective build-up and explosion kind of songwriting style going on in this. And this came out in 2003 on Peaceville. And I want to say a couple years after this, they broke up. By the way, I should say, I guess, the drummer from Beyond Dawn does Duplicate Records, which put out this compendium release. This is a 2 CD set of rarities, demos, B-sides, and stuff. What happened to the moonlight hidden beneath the cloud? All right, it's kind of quiet here. So yeah, the drummer does Duplicate Records. He also plays drums in Virus and Inferno, and I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. They did a side project before this or after this album called Two Trains, which I really like, which is pretty much just like straight up indie rock, with that still like heavy songwriting kind of style. But this is kind of a cool release. They actually did like a Kickstarter campaign for this, so that if you donated, you would get a copy of it. And then they also said, like, if you were one of the first 100 to donate, they would put your name in the booklet. So I was actually one of the first here. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, there I am. I'm probably like number 20 or so. So I'm in the booklet if you have this. And yeah, this is really just for like die-hard fans like me. That's pretty much it. There's some previously unreleased material, some remixes, live recordings, and never before heard tracks from the vault, pre-production demos and stuff like that. So yeah, a couple more left here. This is Beyond Hell, The Sleeper Awakens. And this came out on Dark Descent a couple of years ago. And I think this was given to me by Wayne from Golgotha, because he is in this band. But you know what? I don't know if I've even listened to this. I got it about a year ago, to my credit. So I don't feel all that bad about having not listened to it. Best I remember, though, this is just some kind of experimental doom kind of stuff. God damn it. What does he play on this? This might be Wayne's solo project, I want to say. I have a hard time keeping all of his stuff straight. He's a good friend of mine, but he's in a million bands, and I have a really hard time knowing what I have copies of, what I don't have copies of, who was in what, a lot of incestuous members between this and this and this. But this is something I need to get around to listen to. In fact, I think I'll probably listen to this today on my drive into work. So this is a band called Bible of the Devil, Tales from the SS Raw EP. This is a band from the Midwest. This is a CDR demo. I want to say they're from Chicago, maybe even somewhere else in Illinois originally. They've been just kind of kicking around for a number of years, having tons and tons of different rotating members throughout. But we played it. An old band of mine called Cannibal Horse played a show with these guys back in 2001, and I think that's where I picked this up. It's just kind of like heavy, raw, stonery metal from what I can remember. Nothing all that exciting, but they're still around from what I know. They've been around for probably about 20 years or so. So next, I've got Big Business, and this is the album Head for the Shallow. This album is so heavy and good. It's kind of left of center, though, for what a lot of people who would be watching this video might expect. It's kind of like an indie stoner metal kind of thing. Really nothing typical about it, though. The songwriting is really, really, really great. So this is the debut album. The band started out... The guitar player and singer came from a band called Carp, which is a killer band. And the drummer for this band, Cody something or other, Cody Willis, was in, I want to say, Murder City Devils, something like that. But he's a killer drummer. Anyway, I went to this show and with some friends, and hadn't really heard of any of the bands, and I didn't really know what I was getting into. It was a These Arms Are Snakes show, who I still to this day couldn't tell you what they sound like or anything. But the opener, nobody had ever heard of them. I was standing straight up front getting ready to watch the show, and they blew me the fuck away. And it was Big Business. They were just a two-piece. The guy played keyboards with his fucking foot while he played guitar and sang at the same time. And the songwriting is just thunderous, oceanic, pummeling all at the same time. I can't recommend you check out this album enough. Head for the Shallow, definitely check out. I'll put links for this and all these CDs down below. They did an album after this that I still need to pick up called Here Comes the Waterworks. And those are the only two albums that I like from this band, actually. The others that I've heard, not really doing it for me. They kind of stepped away from the simplistic style. And then I've got a little tour EP that they put out. I've seen these guys live about 3 or 4 times, and they were really great. In fact, you might know them as being the last... Okay, I don't know what the Melvins are up to these days, really, but I know a couple of years ago, the Melvins were just Dale Crover and Buzz Osborne, but they needed another bass player, so they got the bass player from Big Business, and the drummer. So they were doing the tours with 2 drummers and the bass player and guitar player from Big Business. And I want to say they're not doing that anymore. Sounds like your time in the Melvins, if you're a bass player, is real finite these days. But yeah, check out Big Business if that sounds up your alley. I'm going to go ahead and listen to Beyond Hell here soon. Let me think if there's anything else to update you on. Thanks for checking out our videos, and if any of you have responded to my last video about downloading MP3s, let me know. It seems like I haven't seen any responses yet, but thanks for your comments. Thanks for your support. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. That way you can keep up to date on everything that I'm doing. And also check out Moonlight Hidden Beneath the Cloud. I was hoping that some of the songs on this album would be more interesting. But so far this is kind of a snore yet. But this band is so great. Alright.